After releasing the first Side of the Road Office PC video, I was surprised by the support and the stories that all the people who watched it left for me to read. It was getting hard to respond to every comment, and I'm happy you guys enjoyed that video. I also liked a lot of the suggestions on what I could do with this PC and the direction I should take it in. There was plenty of support for the idea of spray painting the case and to give it a new look. Originally I was thinking of spray painting it too, plus doing some sort of design on the front panel or something, and leaving it at that. But in the spirit of budgeting, and because I kind of can't spray paint this case due to me relocating at the moment, I have a better idea that you yourself can do at home to spruce up any case and still make them unique and desirable. So, follow along as we turn this abandoned office PC into a light and usable desktop computer. Before we get into making this case look better, I'm going to do a couple simple yet important upgrades to our PC, besides cleaning it up a little bit. Shoutouts to a commenter for reminding me that the front panel comes off, by the way. I don't know how I forgot about that. But anyways, after cleaning up what was left that I missed, it was on to giving this PC its first upgrade, our RAM, which was lacking since we only had 4 GB. So, for less than $10, I got matching sticks of our Nanya RAM that will effectively double our capacity and also run our memory in dual channel, which should increase the overall performance of this Office PC. It is simple, but an absolute must for an upgrade on this PC, since if we want to run Windows 10 on this machine, we will need at least 8 gigs if we want it to feel decent. Also, we should think about our storage, since originally we never had any when we found this guy on the side of the road. I could buy a cheap brand new hard drive with tons of storage and call it there, or even a used high capacity SSD. But we are pinching pennies, and I want a little less moving parts in this PC going forward, so it will last as long as it can. That being said, for roughly $20 or less, I went with this Kingston 240GB SSD. The capacity is pretty low, but since it was as cheap as it was, you can buy more storage for a setup like this down the road if you really need to later on. After all, this is just a basic office computer. We don't want this build to be overkill. And now for the biggest question of all. What about our GPU? Well, that's a surprise for later on. Instead, let's move on to the PC case and see what we will do to make it more desirable. As I've said, originally the plan was to spray paint it, and a lot of you guys were thinking the same thing. I have a better idea. Vinyl. I was able to pick up some for $1.25 at the $1.25 store. It was 12 inches by 48 inches, so I can really cover this thing with as much of it as I want. But I want to keep it simple, and my main idea was giving this a two-toned finished look. Kind of like those two-tone designs on cars all the way from the 1950s up to the 1990s. Plus, I could stencil out the debossed lettering on the side panel too and make the whole thing pop out more. At least in theory I can. But first, let's go ahead and put 2 white strips along the bottom of this PC. Measuring this out wasn't too complicated. I was going to put a 1/2 inch width stripe on the bottom and a full inch width one above it, leaving a gap in between the two. This was a bit challenging honestly, but to be fair, I blame the cheap vinyl. I had to do multiple cuts to get the straightest looking pair I could, but other than that, it wasn't anything too bewildering in terms of surprises. They weren't perfect, but they don't need to be. On the flip side though, the lettering I knew was not going to be a piece of cake. I thought about stenciling out the letters with charcoal and cutting them with that, but through multiple failed attempts and ash-covered hands, I decided to meticulously cut out each letter one by one, gently inside the debossed region of the side panel. Going slow was important because I didn't want to scratch the paint while cutting out the letters, otherwise it might look worse than it already does. And once again, the cheap vinyl made this quite the challenge. Specifically, the S and R was giving me some trouble. I did get better at it towards the end when I was finishing the last O though, but it's still pretty cool I think. I did fix up the S and touched up the other letters off camera, but all that mattered at this point was putting on our 2 strips and seeing how it looks all lined up. Hey, that's not too bad. If you get real close you can see some of the errors, but other than that, this isn't too shabby. Sweet. Besides some more detailing and light cleaning here and there, this guy is ready for one last part, the GPU. So what did I decide to go with? Well, considering we have a low amount of RAM, a basic 4-core, small storage, and a 300 watt PSU, we should go with something safe and esport level. In my eyes, the HP Brie-built RX 460 is plenty for this machine. It can pull all the power from the PCIe port, especially since we don't have an extra 6-pin or 8-pin with this PSU, and it has 2 GB of VRAM, which may not seem like a lot, but will allow us to play esports, indie games, some new releases from smaller studios, and even allow you to run a much higher resolution monitor if you really want to push the system to its limits. Plus, right now you can get these cards for $35, which is the lowest I have seen them sell at ever. Anyways, after installing it into our system and buying a cheap Windows 10 key, it was time to make sure the PC was running smoothly. And not shockingly, it was fast and fluid-like. It renders YouTube videos pretty decently, it feels highly responsive when typing or doing anything simple, and most importantly, it games just fine for what it is worth. I won't show any frame data here because it just isn't necessary to do so, but if you want to see what this GPU is capable of, I recommend going ahead and watching my HP RX 460 video for a more detailed look and frame data analysis into this card. Otherwise, it is what you would expect out of an 11-year-old system, but in short, it runs great, with the total build cost being just a little over $110, and that is with our compromises. It could honestly be built cheaper, maybe even with slightly better performance. It would just depend on the person and its purpose. I know I wouldn't want to spend more than what I have on a system like this since it doesn't have any real reason to be any better than it already is. Regardless of that though, I am happy with what I have built. Considering this was basically a shell with some parts already there, it made it very plug and play like and allows for a small but upgradable future if you really need certain things like a better GPU or more storage or whatever. For some people this is all they need, and honestly, I think it's plenty for some people. With that all said and done though, what do you think? Would you put a better CPU or GPU in this PC? Should it have been made cheaper? Was it a waste of money even? Let me know in the comments below. I will read as many of them as I can. If you want to see more videos such as this one, by the way, subscribe for more, like the video if you haven't already, and as always, thanks for watching.